Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Umilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Radhanath Swami iti namine. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami iti namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Deshatarine. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so this is Srimad Bhagavatam class. If you can see the screen, I hope. First, I would like to thank Prameya Prabhu for giving me the opportunity to speak to you all today. And thank you again for organizing this Mangalati. It's so nice to see devotees here. Yeah. Okay, so this class, I've just basically taken one of my Guru Maharaj's classes on this verse, and I'm just repeating what he's saying. So none of this is really mine. If there's any mistakes, it's on me. So the verse here is from the 3rd canto. So we can recite together, if you can see the verse, I hope. Ekanta, so we can just do it together. Ekantalabam vachaso nupam sham shushlokamole gunavadam bahu shutescha vidva birapukritam yam Katha Sudyayam Upasamprayogam. Maybe one more time. Ekantalabam Vachaso Nuprunsham Shushlokamole Gunavadamahu Shutescha Vidva Birapukrikyam Akatha Sudyayam Upasamprayogam. So, translation. The highest perfectional gain of humanity is to engage in discussions of the activities and glories of the pious actor. Such activities are so nicely arranged in writing by the greatly learned sages that the actual purpose of the ear is served just by being near them. Again. The highest perfectional gain of humanity is to engage in discussions of the activities and glories of the pious actor. Such activities are so nicely arranged in writing by the greatly learned sages that the actual purpose of the ear is served just by being near them. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The impersonalists are very much afraid very much afraid of hearing the activities of the Lord because they think that the happiness derived from the transcendental situation of Brahman is the ultimate goal of life. They think that anyone's activity, even that of the personality of Godhead, is mundane. But the idea of happiness is indicated in this verse is different because it relates to the activities of the Supreme Personality, who has transcendental qualities. The word guna vadam is significant because the qualities of the Lord and His activities and pastimes are the subject matter for the discussions of devotees. A rishi like Maitreya is certainly not interested in discussing anything pertaining to mundane qualities. Yet, he says that the highest perfectional stage of transcendental realization is to discuss the Lord's activities. Srila Jiva Goswami, therefore, Srila Jiva Goswami therefore concludes that topics regarding the transcendental activities of the Lord are far beyond the transcendental realization of Kaivalya happiness. These transcendental activities of the Lord are so arranged in writing by the great sages that simply by hearing of those narrations one becomes perfectly self-realized, and the proper use of the ear and the tongue is also achieved. Srimad Bhagavatam is one of such great literatures, and the highest perfectional stage of life is attained simply by hearing and reciting its contents. So the background of this verse, right? This is the 3rd canto, 6th chapter. So Vidura, having been basically kicked out of the kingdom of Hastinapur by Duryodhana, he left and went on a pilgrimage. And on that pilgrimage, he met Maitreya Muni. And now, Vidura is asking questions of Maitreya Muni about, and in this chapter, about the creation of the universal form, about the cosmos, how the Lord creates it. So Maitreya Muni is explaining to him, various, topics on this question. Oops. So, as we explained in the translation of this verse, this is regarding the importance of hearing about the Bhagavatam, right? Hearing Bhagavatam, hearing about the Lord, hearing His pastimes, the importance of that. So that's what I'll focus on. And that's what this class that Maharaj gave was about mostly. So the highest perfection of humanity is to hear and speak about the Lord's pastimes and glories. And the ear's real purpose, right, as is said in the verse, the ear's real purpose is to use it to hear the pastimes of the Lord and to hear the Lord's names. Everything else that the ear does, according to this, is secondary, right? The ultimate purpose of the ear is to hear the Lord's names and to hear about the pastimes of the Lord. So when Bhagavatam was spoken, it was spoken by Shukdev Goswami, but it was written by Ved Vyas. But because Shukdev Goswami had so much deep realization on this topic, even when he spoke it came out even sweeter, right? So when somebody speaks it, they're just not reciting it, but they're actually speaking it with realization. That's when the content of it becomes even sweeter. So this is the benefit we have when we listen to people like Shukdev Goswami or people who are really self-realized when they recite and they speak on the topic of Bhagavatam. Now, Srila Prabhupada has given us Srimad Bhagavatam in this English form that we use, and we has been published and spread all over the world. Lord Chaitanya's prediction was that Srimad Bhagavatam would be delivered to every town and village throughout the world, and that was his desire. And this message, he's in saying that his desire was not that only the people who understand Sanskrit or only the people that understand Bengali should be able to take benefit from Bhagavatam or from Chaitanya Charitamrita. The goal was to give this message to the entire world, because everyone is eternal, has forgotten their eternal relationship with the Lord, which is that they're eternal loving servant of the Lord. And because all of us, all around the world, have forgotten this message and forgotten our relationship, that's why Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who was Srila Prabhupada's guru, instructed him, you put this message in the English language. And the English language is the most common language throughout the world, and it's the most influential language. Now Maharaj explains, English itself is actually a very poor language, grammatically, phonetically, for every rule in English, there's 20 different exceptions to that rule. And We've all seen it. We all come across it day to day. We get used to it, and that's how we learn. But if you're teaching it, it's very hard to learn, because if somebody's learning it, and Maharaj gives the example of the word pneumonia, right? It's spelled with a P, obviously, right? So if you spell it phonetically, or based on the way it's written, you would say pneumonia or pneumonia, right? So, and there's so many examples like that, right? It's almost ridiculous, this language. So, but its importance is that it's used by most people around the world. Everyone has studied it. I just recently went to Paris, and I was trying my broken French, but people realized they all spoke English in Paris. So everywhere you go, everyone speaks this language. So, and then not just English, but these books have been written and converted and translated into so many languages: French, German, Italian, Swahili, Afrikaans, Spanish, you name it, right? These books have been converted into all these languages, and for the purpose that Srila Prabhupada wanted to give this compassion, right? This compassion of giving this knowledge, this transcendental knowledge, to all people around the world. Is explained here that English, even though it's kind of like military language, it's the potency, right? Some people might say, oh, because Bhagavatam is written in Sanskrit, that you should understand Sanskrit. But actually, what's explained that even though it's written in English, which is not a pure language or a very high quality language, the potency of the Bhagavatam is not lost, right? It's equal in potency to any of the scriptures that are written by the previous Acharyas in Sanskrit, in Bengali. There's no degradation of potency. The potency comes from the devotion that Srila Prabhupada puts into the books itself, not in the language that is written in. So that's important to know, that if anyone says that, oh, you should really understand Sanskrit to really appreciate the books, yes, it's valuable, but no, it's not critical in terms of being able to derive the potency that is put into the books. If that was the case, Srila Prabhupada wouldn't have put it into English. So, and then, so this parampara is a disciplic succession, right? The knowledge is passed down through the line of disciplic succession. So this devotion passes through this parampara, right? So whatever Prabhupada has written carries the same devotion because of this line. So in terms of the importance of hearing and chanting, there's a verse, in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.8, which says that no matter what your occupation is, if it does not result in increasing your taste and for hearing and chanting, it's actually useless. Now, all of us work for professional organizations, or we have businesses and whatnot, right? So it's hard to kind of reconcile that. But what the point is, even if you're doing some random job for some company, if you're using the fruits of that job, right, your income, and you're using it to increase the Krishna consciousness within your family, you're donating to the temple and so on. In fact, you are actually using it to increase your Krishna consciousness for you and your family. And then it says, developing the taste for Krishna's glories, and by doing that, you become detached from the miseries of material life. So therefore, our goal, right, should be number one, to increase and the quality and quantity of our hearing and chanting. And we must hunger for it, right? So, like the example is given that if somebody's in the desert and they're starving and they're thirsty, and you offer them a gold chain, right, like with diamonds on it, and for free, and you say, okay, have this. Like, what are they going to do with that? If there's nowhere to use that to buy food, if there's no food around, it's useless for them, right? We have that like extreme hunger and thirst. So that thirst and that hunger we should apply to our desire for chanting and hearing. We should have that level of, as if we're starving, as if we're thirsty in a desert. We should have that level of desire for chanting and hearing. Now, coming to the topic of education, right? So Maharaj, as you know, he presides over this Chaupati temple, and there's a lot of students that come there. And these students, when it comes to exam time, right, they study, like they're studying and studying and studying, and like that becomes their whole life, right? Because they're afraid of not getting into the college that they want to get into, right? A good college. So as a result of that studying, their sadhana or their chanting and hearing kind of falls by the wayside. And so what he's explaining is that they're afraid of not getting into the college that they want to be in, but they're not afraid of death. They're not afraid of losing their position in the spiritual world. They're not afraid of this material world. They're more afraid of not getting into the college. So that's explained as this is like a foolish behavior. No matter what, your primary occupation should be your chanting and your hearing. That is the backbone of your spiritual life. Everything else comes after that. Even your subsistence, right? Your job, your career, whatever, even your family, right? That's what is explained. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he had, I think, his appearance day earlier this last week. He has a song with Vidyara Vilase. Maybe some of you are familiar with that. So sometimes, when we sing these bhajans, it sounds very happy, lovely song. You think, oh, Vidyara Vilase, or must be talking about Krishna dancing with Radha, and Vidyara Vilase. And then it comes to the translation. And then translation is like, oh, it's very heavy. It's talking about, actually, I've spent my entire life studying all this mundane, useless, material education, and now it's the end of my life, and I realize I've wasted my entire life studying this thing, and I'm just a foolish ass. And that's the translation of this bhajan. So take a look at that bhajan when you get time. But basically, it's very important. We should also sing these kind of bhajans so that we understand our predicament in this material world. But at the same time, he explains that they don't stop the students from studying. Like whoever's there at the ashram, they don't say, okay, give up your studying and then just join the temple, right? Because is it because they just want them to suffer and bang their head and cram all this information and then learn the hard way that is useless? Partly. But more importantly, they want the students to use this education so that they can use it in Krishna's service. All right? So when you have a good education, when you have skills, you can use that in Krishna's service. You can write books. You can preach nicely. You can do so many things, right, with your skills. So it's encouraged that you learn and you get your education and you use it in Krishna's service. Now, in terms of spiritual strength, our hearing and chanting is like, analogy is like our food for our soul, right? So just how we eat food every day to nourish our bodies so that we can function and do everything we do. In the same way, we need food for our soul, for our spiritual life, and that is hearing and chanting the Lord's names. So that's why we need to do that every day. So, and without it, even deity worship and things like that, other forms of service, they can lose their meaning. And he gave an example, like Srila Prabhupada, when he was in Vrindavan, he was, in 1972, he was explaining how beautiful the deities there are. And he was explaining that these deities, they're just like the most beautiful American boy and girl. But he then gave a sober instruction that he said that there are two paths on the Bhakti Marg. So the first one is Pancharatriki Vidhi, which is basically worshipping the deity and performing all the various sevas for the deity. And then the other one is Bhagavad Dharma, which is about hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord. So that, under that comes Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, right? So he emphasized Vishnu. And what he's basically saying is that if we don't emphasize on the hearing and chanting, we may lose importance on the other services like deity worship. And at some point he predicts, like Prabhupada saying that at some point, if there is no emphasis on hearing and chanting, the pujaris may start questioning, oh, my Guru Maharaj has left me with the responsibility of looking after these deities, and he'll see it as a burden rather than like a valuable responsibility that he needs to do. Like they'll lose that importance for other services because you didn't emphasize or focus on your hearing and chanting. So in that sense, this hearing and chanting supports all your other services that you do in the temple. It's not equal in that sense. You can't just say, I'm just going to do deity service and not do my hearing and chanting, or I'll skip that. Today I'll skip and I'll just do some other service, right? So whatever you do, you be GBC, you temple president, whatever it is, cook. Without the hearing and chanting as your foundation, as your backbone, it will not sustain. Okay, so as far as regulation goes, right? In Bhagavatam, there's a verse 1.2.18, Nasta Prayesha Vabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtaki. The meaning of this is that by regular attendance in classes on Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Essentially, it's saying that Bhagavatam class is essential. It's not optional, right? Chanting our 16 rounds gives us protection from Maya, right? These things are not like nice to have, right? As we say, these are not optional. These are must have, right? When we get initiated, we take a vow, right? And we vow to chant 16 rounds. We try to follow the regulative principles. So without this, no matter what service we're doing, we will become victim to Maya. It doesn't matter what position you're in. Like I said, if you're GBC, president, book distributor, it doesn't matter, right? You have to have that foundation. It's life or death, right? Think of it like a life or death thing, that you have to do these things. So we can't say, oh, I'm busy today, I'll do it tomorrow, or, you know, I have this service, I'm too busy, I have to meet this person. No, your sadhana comes first. And these things like lust, anger, envy, greed, pride, illusion, like these are all bad qualities. We can't overcome these by ourselves. Like it's impossible. Maya is so strong. But if we chant nicely, we hear nicely, Krishna will promises that he will remove these bad qualities from our life. Now, in terms of how to cultivate taste, right? It's hard. Our mind wanders all the time. Sometimes we're in the mood, like a good sattvic mood, and we have like a good intention to chant and to attend Bhagavatam class. Sometimes we're in the mood of rajas, where we'll feel like, oh no, I need to meet this person, I need to talk to that person, oh, I'll chant tomorrow, right? So we lose that like importance. And then even worse, if we're in the mode of tamas, we say, oh, I'm sleepy today, I'll chant tomorrow. Yesterday I attended Bhagavatam class, today I'll sleep a bit extra and I'll attend next week. So depending on the modes, we can be influenced strongly and negatively. But Krishna if he sees our sincerity, he gives us taste. So sometimes, even if we're not feeling enthusiasm or we're not feeling eagerness to chant and to hear, and it's very hard, right? Like you can't manufacture motivation or sincerity like that, right? But Maharaj explains, just do it anyway. Just force yourself to do it. Just be, even if you've ever heard the saying, fake it till you make it, right? In the same way, if you just fake and pretend that you're enthusiastic, you just force yourself, just do it. Even if you feel zero enthusiasm, you just do it anyway. That's another Nike saying, right? Just do it. You've seen those t-shirts? Just do it, and the enthusiasm will come from that, right? It's not like you need the inspiration and then you do it. No, you manufacture that inspiration by just doing it, and just being enthusiastic. So that was, I thought that was very valuable. Okay, so then. Yeah, and then the other thing is, I emphasized on you have to do, your backbone is your chanting and your hearing for other services, but at the same time, you can't be the opposite, where like they say there's bhajanandis, I don't know how to. So the people say, oh, I'll be like Haridas Thakur, and I'll just chant all day long, and I won't do any service. And then Prabhupada explains that no, these people are actually also in illusion, right? Yeah, unless you're doing service to Guru and Vaishnava, along with your hearing and chanting, you would not progress as well, like you would not advance. So you both of these things need to go together. You need to serve and do with your backbone of hearing and chanting, but at the same time you also need to, you need both things. And that way you will progress. So there was one example Maharaj gave of Lord Chaitanya, right? He was going throughout some villages in India and he came across one devotee who was reciting Bhagavatam. And as soon as he saw that, he became ecstatic. His body started to tremble. And then as soon as this person was reciting each verse after verse, Lord Chaitanya would say, go on, continue, recite, like he was encouraging to chant more and more and more. And then that person, every so often, he would go and embrace that devotee who was reciting and he would drench him in his tears. He had that much enthusiasm. Lord Chaitanya was giving us the example of how to be the ideal devotee. And he did that, right? Like just showing his enthusiasm for hearing Bhagavatam. He would even ask his own associates to talk to him about Bhagavatam. This is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He knows everything, but still he's showing us as an example of how we should have this enthusiasm. And this went on for 8 hours straight. This chanting, and Lord Chaitanya kept telling him, go on, and at the end the devotees had to beg him, please, Lord, please, we have to stop now, right? Otherwise he would have just kept going forever and ever. So at the end he gave this devotee, he was so happy with him, he said, I'll give you the name Bhagavat Acharya. And in Shiksastaka, which we recited earlier, right, it's explained, Trinada Pishuni Chena, Torora Pi Sahishnuna, Amanina Manindina, Kitaniya Siddhahari, explains that if you're humble like a blade of grass and tolerant like a tree and ready to offer all respects without expecting any in return, you will be able to chant and hear constantly. So this is the key, right? If we imbibe these qualities, being humble, being tolerant, offering respects, not expecting in return, we will develop this taste. So this is very important to remember. So our duties, right, are to chant 16 rounds, to hear Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita daily. And we should prioritize this thing as a primary duty. Sometimes, sometimes during the kirtan is going on and we get distracted, right? We will see somebody gossiping on the side, or we're in the room and there's people outside and we just have that itch. Oh, let me go and talk to that person. Let me find out what's on the grapevine. What juicy gossip can I get from them? Like you have that itch and it just pulls you out of the room and then into that. Or you sometimes have your phone next to you and you just remember something that, oh, I need some cricket matches going on. Let me just quickly check the score and then I'll go back and chant later. Or, you're always tricking yourself, you're cheating yourself. So it's very important that you don't do that. So keep your phone away, or just have that discipline to not be pulled or distracted, because it's just going to hurt you. Right? You have to maintain that importance, that focus on what you're doing in your chanting. Right? Even when we're having chanting earlier, right? It's very easy, even for your mind to get pulled onto this or that. And then you stop your chanting, you stop your round, and then you step away, go and talk to someone. We shouldn't do that. We should try, when you come here and even at home, when you have that window of when you're supposed to chant, just focus on that. Don't get distracted, because it will just degrade the quality of your chanting. So to conclude, right, Maitreya Muni is speaking here about, in this verse, the highest perfection or gain of humanity is to engage in discussions of the activities and glories of the pious actor. Such activities are so nicely arranged in writing by the greatly learned sages that the actual purpose of the ear is served just by being near them. Okay, so I'll end there. Just about time. If there's any questions, you can take that. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
You set the standard very high. Okay, so I recommend that if anyone has any realization from the class, only 1 or 2 points.
Yeah.
At least 2 people share.
I actually was reading Bhagavatam. I'm still in the first canto. Because I've already read it. But just yesterday I was reading, and Prabhupada in his book, he writes about his personal life. Usually in the purport he never writes about himself. Almost, I haven't seen at least in Bhagavad Gita or in the Bhagavatam so far. But in the first canto, this is the chapter of Parikshit Maharaj, appearance of, I think it's called birth of the appearance of Parikshit Maharaj. So Parikshit, he's writing this. Okay, the background is he describes Parikshit Maharaj as a great king, he's a great sage, he's a great benefactor, all those things. And he's great in so many different ways. And then he says, I was given these deities by my parents, and when I was 4 years old, and then he used to go to the Radha Golda thing, and then he was imitating all the worship with his personal deities that his parents gave him. But then he writes that for many years I neglected them completely, and it's there in the movie also. Mother Krishna gave me the 17-volume CDs of Acharya movie, and it's about 17 hours each series, about an hour. And then there you can see that Prabhupada father, his wife, his spirit. I think he was already married, right? Because he got married at 14 or something. He met her at like 11 or 12, and those cultures, they'd say, okay, you're going to marry him, and then you go back to your parents' house, you go back to your parents' house and settle, sort out your school, sort out your cooking skills, and then when the time is right, we can settle into it. So they show him packing up those deities and then putting them away, and he writes in his purport that he ignored the deities for so many years. And the reason I'm saying this is because he was saying that people go to college and school, they don't have time,
Yeah.
so inundated, or even their
Right.
chanting is like a little bit mixed with this. So I think it's okay. I mean, it's part of living in the material world. You're already out of Vaikuntha. You're in America, New Jersey, so you have to deal with the traffic. And you have to
Yeah.
deal with
I think the point here is, even despite life happens, right? You should never lose your focus on your daily hearing and chanting. Like everything else can fall by the wayside, but those two things you should never stop, never give up.
I just have one quick comment. Yeah, it's very difficult to we say that okay, I'm going to sit down and 1 hour I will listen. It's not going to happen. The thing is to squeeze wherever it's possible.
Yeah.
Right? Because my drive to office is only 15-18 minutes. I cannot do a full lecture. But the YouTube is nice because if you start hearing YouTube, every day it gives you the new lecture.
Yeah.
Prabhupada lecture, next day it will give you another Prabhupada lecture. Because
That's a good point.
what you
Yeah.
want to hear. So same way, like, I think it's just a matter of like how we squeeze in between different things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Otherwise, sit down and hear and not
That never going to
never
happen.
would happen.
Yeah. Exactly.
Listening to what Prabhuji have said, what I my senior godfather, and they always says that in your daily life, you should keep a pocket of time in the day, right, which you designate for your service. So as Prabhuji have said, maybe you know that this is the pocket of my day which I can utilize in the Krishna service, right? And we should be very focused that way, that okay, have we ever meet our meeting appointments? Have we ever meet our doctor's appointment? We don't, right? We make sure that we use that appointment. So consider them as your appointment with Krishna, right? And treat it, okay, this time is my appointment. While I'm driving, going back, it's my appointment with Krishna. I'm going to use that time to hear.
Yeah.
And then Krishna will gradually guide you.
Right. Yeah, I mean, a lot of us drive, commute. I mean, that's an ideal time to listen, even if it's 15, 20 minutes.
Games of pickleball, not the game you don't play, right?
But
Okay,
wonderful job.
thank you.
Thank you.